Hey guys, welcome back. It is your favorite Gimp with a Limp, and I've got in front of me a game that I'm very excited to show you today. This is Mythic Commander. Now, I have shown you guys in a quick unboxing, unbagging of the game before, but the game itself is pretty much the rule book, but we do have all these extra components, but you can play it with anything. So whatever you want to use with it. Now, this game is by Modifius. They were nice enough to send me a copy of it, let you guys know that up front. And I had reached out to them to cover it. I normally don't do that. I usually just let the publishers come to me. But this time I saw this and it excited me, and there wasn't a whole lot of footage out there for it. So I wanted to show it to you guys. And here's the deal. Here's the really cool part. This game is effectively a tactical skirmish game, miniatures game on a very small footprint. So this is almost Warhammer 40K or Warhammer Age of Sigmar, since it's, old style swords and stuff, on a smaller map, using counters instead. Now, you can play it using minis, you can play it on a different map, you could, however you want, as long as you can translate it to this scale, to whatever, it's the squares. But the game has all the rules and all the accoutrement, the detail and the chrome that you would expect from a larger game, from something much bulkier, right? Get the units having stats, their melee stats, their range stats, their armor stats, saving throws, health points. So it's not like you're just worrying about a single unit, right? So in many games, when you have a counter, you'll have the counter, it'll take damage, you'll flip the counter over, and they'll take damage again, and it's gone. It's not like that with these. These effectively have health points away. They're the infantry. So some of these that have like 10 strength, 10 health points, that's the units that are in there. So you're going to roll dice for each one of those, and that's going to be compared against your enemy's roll and their armor value and blah, 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 blah. So when I was first reading this, I was expecting a much more streamlined, simplistic game than actually is. This is much deeper than I originally anticipated, and it's actually quite nice. The point is you can take and have on-the-go ability to play a larger feeling game with a small footprint, right? Those games where, like I keep referencing 40K, but any game of that ilk, where you have large forces on each side, and this line of warriors, and your archers, and your chariots, and your cavalry all going to battle. But now you've got it right here in a small footprint, but the rules and the feel are the same. All right, so what I have set up here is a small conflict. It's not huge. There are many more units that can be brought into it. You see I've still got plenty of units that I could add to it. And I have the Undying faction as one side, and I'm going to have, the Brutal faction as the other faction. So you see it's got all the different units, their different stats for things like movement, melee, ranged, armor, morale, the different melee weapons they'll use, ranged weapons, all that type of stuff. And then they each have special rules as well. Like the Undying faction, which is this faction up here at the top, they have Unrelenting, which means that when they would perform a retreat move, you're not actually going to retreat. They take damage instead of retreating. So they're basically the skeletons and zombies of this game, and they don't retreat from combat. They're going to stick in. Now, it doesn't matter really what counters you use to represent it. There's effectively 4 sets, because there's 2 sets of counters, and then the counters are double-sided. So like here, we've got chariot, and the other side, there's archers on there. So it gives you effectively like multiple colors, and then it's really how you're going to differentiate the different units. So down here, I'm going to have the Brutal faction. Up here, we're going to have the Undying faction. They're going to wage a little war. I'm going to show you guys how the game itself is played. Oh, and something quite nice here at the back of the rule book is a nice rule summary. And I gotta say, it really does tell you pretty much everything you need to know. The only thing that I wish they would have included would have been a page that had all the special rules on it, because the special rules are in the rulebook, things for like their special abilities, modifiers, whatnot. But it's spread out a little bit. So you see like here, we've got champion traits and things like that. And then there's special rules for the different units. That is spread out a little bit more. If there was one page that had all those listed down, that would be great. That might be something that's already on BGG. I'll have to take a look though. Okay, so very quickly, I just, like I said, grabbed out some random units, roughly equivalent for each side, but we have a commander for each side, which is going to be a small square counter. The rest of them are rectangular, with the exception of the commander. Facing is going to matter for the rest of the units. Commanders, if they're off on their own, they're effectively facing in every direction. But with other units, they do have an arrow that designates what direction that they're facing. That's going to matter, because you can have flank attacks or rear attacks, which will change up combat and give bonuses or modifiers for combat if you're flanking someone or attacking them in the rear. For example, when you are attacking someone, if you're directly adjacent to them and you're conducting a melee attack against them, it's not just your melee attack. Both sides melee attack against each other at the same time. However, if you attack someone in the rear instead, so if these guys are stabbing them in the butt, then they don't get to fight back. So it can behoove you to really get in there and get in on the flanks of these guys. But you see, I've got the commanders for each one of these forces. The other one is up here with their ghosts. They get to attach themselves to units, so they can add their power, their modifier, to each side. That is a really cool thing, but they can detach and work on their own as well, just like you would expect like a commander or special unit, special hero unit, and something like 40k. You can do the same thing with these guys. There are multiple types, like mages, that are included in the game. I've just got a commander for each side, and they are attached each to a unit. I'm not going to talk about it anymore. We're going to jump right into it. Oh, I do need to mention this so you guys understand. Forgive me for forgetting. You'll notice it's dark, much darker than I usually have my games. The one bad side effect to this game and the way the components are made is the map that is included is extremely glossy. I showed this in the overview of the game, but even with diffused lighting, it glared on it so bad. So I had to cut the lighting way down to not wash out the board, so you guys will be able to see it. I do apologize that it's a little bit darker than I would prefer, but it's the only way I can show the game. All right, so with this game, you're going to have your planning phase, command phase, and aftermath phase. Planning phase is when you draw your command cards that you're going to have for that round. Command phase is when you actually conduct your operations. And then the aftermath phase is when you do cleanup and retreats and morale checks and the like. Now, just for my own peace of mind and memory, I am going to have my little yellow beads that I am going to put on units once they've activated, just so I can help remember what units have gone in the game. So when it comes to the planning phase, that's where these command cards are going to come into play. The command cards will be given to you based on your command value. Different units, like your commander here, will give you a command value. For these two commanders, each of their command values is 3. That means they each get 3 cards during the planning phase. So we'll draw 3 down here for the brutal guys, and we'll draw 3 up here for the undying faction. So normally you're not going to show, obviously, your cards to each other, but I'm playing the solitaire, so there's really no hidden information. Your command cards can be used on your command phase. So we're out of the command phase, the planning phase. Now we're into the command phase, rather. And there are certain things like interrupt cards that will let you interrupt your opponent's turn. This one is a interrupt card. And then there are other cards that will allow you to activate more than a single unit. So on your turn during the command phase, you can pick a unit and just activate them and do a move or a charge or a melee, range attack, whatever, your basic actions that you would anticipate having. Or you can add a command card into it that will give you some type of bonus. For example, this command card is a reposition. This allows 2 adjacent units to perform a move action with +1 to their movement. Both units may perform an additional free maneuver at any point during their respective turns. Now, respective moves rather. Now, when you're moving, it's really simple. You move orthogonally and you can just count it out. So let's say these archers have a movement factor of 3. They go 1, 2, 3. Boom. Well, actually 1, 2. They'd stop there because this is considered rough and it takes 2 movement points to move into it. When you are moving your units, remember I said facing matters. So if you want to turn them to face a different direction, then that costs a maneuver point, that a movement point to do that, okay? That only applies if you do it after your first square. If you're in your first square, you're allowed to do a free maneuver, and most units or heavy units can't, but you're allowed to do a free maneuver. So if these guys wanted to turn and face this way and go, they wouldn't be charged for that just on that first square, their initial square that they're starting their movement on. And like I said, there are some terrain modifiers. Things like rough terrain will cost extra. They do recommend ignoring the terrain rules for your first couple of games just to get used to how the game is played. But I wanted to make sure to mention it. So we've got things like rough here in the center where there's the fjord, or hills that give elevation bonuses, fortresses that will give some entrenching bonuses, or things like trees here, and also the hills, which will block line of sight. All right, so here's what we're going to do to figure out who's going first. We're going to use this dark die as our Undying faction and my red die here as the Brutal faction. Do keep in mind, these are my double 6 dice. I love these dice. I always talk them up because these dice are awesome. They are D6s, but they are 12-sided. They effectively have 2d6 on a single die. So there's 2 1s, 2 2s, 2 3s. And so on. They roll a whole lot better. Love these dice. Definitely recommend them. And I keep dropping them. So we'll roll. Whoever's got the higher roll will go first. Okay, so Brutal 1, they get to go first. Now they can either play a command card or just activate a unit. All right, so my cards here. For the Brutal faction, I've got a couple of interrupts and a rallying cry that isn't going to matter. So we're just going to go with some maneuvers to start ourselves off. We'll start with our chariots down over here. They have movement factor of 4. So they simply go 1, 2, 3, and 4. They're going to stop right here behind these trees. They're racing forward, trying to get to the bridge. And just so I remember it, I'm going to place a little token on it so I know that they've activated. Now the Undying faction gets to go. And I think we will play a command card. Ooh, I want to use that. Yeah, I can get them both into a good spot by doing that. Let's see, these are archers. Archers have a movement factor of 3. So I can move them up. I kind of want to get here and rain in some fire, but if I move them too far forward, they have some guys that can fire back, and the range is 6, I do believe. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What was it? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They move forward 1, they're going to be within range. But that means they can rain down fire on the next turn. And I'm bumping my map here. Yeah, we'll do it. We'll do it. We'll play the reposition, and we'll move both of our archers up 2 squares so they can attempt to hold back the enemy on the fjord. Now they can rain down some fire on the enemy units. All right, so we're going to actually go ahead and get some combat going. Now that we are in the right spot, I need to check the stat for the Brutal Rangers. They have a ranged capability. They are light infantry. They have a strength of 10, which means they are going to roll 10 dice. They get to do arcing fire. They have a range of 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Their archers, the Undying archers, are within range. Now, since they are attacking a ranged unit, that ranged unit gets to fire back at them. So it is in both directions. They are going to use their range skill. Let's see what their range skill is. Should be a 4. Yep. So it's like I know I keep coming back to 40k, but some people know it, so it works. Whatever your skill is what you're looking to beat or equal. So with their skill being 4, they're looking for 4s or better to hit the enemy archers. So let's roll 10 dice on them. And, oh, they didn't roll too good. They got 1, 2, 3, and 4 hits. That is not very good. That is not very good at all, actually. All right, so I'm going to place these 4 there so I remember that they have 4 armor saves to make. And now the archers get to fire back since they were targeted, just like how it is in melee. So they're effectively raining fire back. They're attacking back. And I need 4 dice to roll for their attack. And I believe their skill is 4 as well. No, range is 4. Their melee skill is 5. For a second, I thought it was 3. Ooh, that's going to be worse off for these Rangers. They have gotten a fair amount of hits. Oh, damn. Oh, damn. I should be pulling out the misses. Oh, wow. That's going to crush them. Oh, that's going to crush them. This is going to be bad. They have, what's that, 8 hits? How many hits is that? That is 8 hits. Oh, that's 8 hits in return. That range fire did not work well for them. Did not work well for them at all. All right, so let me mark these guys to remember that I've activated them. Same with these Rangers. Now, they have armor values. You just roll however many hits that you got to determine if they got hit or not. The Archer's armor value is 5, which means they need to roll a 5 or better. Sadly, the Ranger's armor value is 6, which means they need 6s to prevent these hits. They are probably going to take some pain on this. So let's roll for our archers. Oh, they missed every one of them. How do you fail at every one? Oh, you guys stink. So we put our markers on it. They have 4 hits against them. Now when they roll an attack, they're only going to roll 6 dice instead because their strength, they've lost units effectively, right? So this is like you got a squad of 10 Marines. 4 Marines get taken out. You're only rolling 6 dice. That's it. Really that simple. Now roll for these guys, and they are looking for 6s. Can they get it? They got 2. They got 2, which means they take 6 damage. Let me pull this out. And we'll set it there. Sadly, these Rangers are pretty beat up. They have 6 guys killed, but they did kill 4 of the Archers, and the Archer is a better unit. So it's not a bad trade. It wasn't a great trade, but it's not a bad trade. Okay, so a couple of things to note at this point in the game. These guys have to have a morale marker put next to them. So in the aftermath phase, they are going to do a morale check, and they may flee. All right, so if they do, you flip this morale marker over to its retreat side, and that designates that they have fled combat. So we'll put that there so we remember that we have to do that. And you're going to do that when they take half or more of damage. So their value was 10. So if they had taken 5 or more hits, they have to do a morale check. And it's for whatever your current value is. So like up here with our archers, they didn't take 50% casualties. Okay. They took 40% casualties. So now they're down to 6 men left. Effectively, that means if they take a hit with 3 on it, now they'll be reduced by half and they have to take a morale check. Effectively, as they take casualties, it becomes easier and easier and easier to make a morale check happen, at which point they're going to retreat. With our untying, it doesn't matter because these guys don't retreat anyway, but you still have to worry about the morale checks for them because they can take extra damage from not retreating. One last thing to denote when it comes to ranged fire is if you have a friendly unit adjacent to the target. So let's say our warriors here for the brutals were not there, they were up here. All right, so they were adjacent to the unit being targeted. Then you have to pay attention to not only the hits that you score, but your misses, because ones can be targeted against the friendly unit, right? They call it a perilous strike. So basically, if you're firing at an enemy unit from range, you can potentially hit your own units. So you have to keep that in mind as well. All right, so that was our Rangers. Let's move forward. We're going to go back to the other side. To our Undying, who are we going to move? I don't think they have anything that's going to move anyone else. Let me check their interrupt. This is after a melee attack, and this allows one unit may perform a melee action. If the unit is still engaging an enemy unit after the melee action, it may immediately perform another melee action. That's actually really good. But we're not going to worry about that. We're going to move up. These are Lancers. Lancers are heavy cavalry. Heavy cavalry are awesome. They move quick, and they can devastate the enemy. I want to get them across that bridge. So they get a movement of 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yes. Yes. I can just get them up there, but I don't want to endanger them against those chariots. I want to be able to get a charge, because if you charge with cavalry, you get to double the amount of dice that you're rolling. It's an extremely powerful maneuver, especially if you're able to get a rear charge into an enemy unit where you're doubling your attack and they don't get to attack back. You can wipe a unit off the map. Tell you what, we're going to slow it down a little bit. We're going to move up my commanding unit. I'm going to move him up 1, 2, 3. He is with Ghosts. There are a few special units in this game. For the Undying, I gave them some Ghosts. They have a slew of special abilities, and they're fairly powerful, really awesome. But there are also things like giant eagles, spiders, giants with like big clubs, siege engines. So there's a slew of special types of units besides just your standing like infantry units. So you can have other cool things in the game as well. All right, so we're back down to the brutal, and I am going to move their cavalry up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. They're racing up, and their goal here is to now get up and turn on the enemy on a subsequent turn, get a flanking or even a rear attack in on them. All right, so the Undying have a couple of units of undead warriors back here. We're going to move those up. I've got a clump of units here for the Undying and basically a spread out force down here for the brutal guys. So I think Undying, his movement factor should be a 3 as well. Let's go. I think turn him. Yes, we're going to turn this unit. Free maneuver, since he's not out of his initial square. He's going to go 1, 2, 3. Moving him over there. That way, the cavalry have to worry. If they try to flank in over here, he can come back, hit them in the rear or the flank themselves. So kind of a guarding action. Now, same thing over here. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? He's got warriors. He's got guardians. We'll move up the guardians over here. 1, 2, 3. Doing a guarding action. That way their goal is to come over here and take this bridge. There's heavy cavalry on the other side, but a chariot and some heavy infantry are now threatening that bridge. So those cavalry don't want to try to hold it on their own. We will move up our warriors. Let's see, where am I going with these guys? I should have had them in front. We'll just move them up 2 right there and perform a few more maneuvers. Move these guys up 1, 2. And last thing I've got is this cavalry over here for the Undying. And I don't think I want to bring them around as such. All right. Basically, I'm going to maneuver them around. They've got 5 movement points, so they're going to swing around through and turn over in this direction, because I'm now no longer sure that I can get across that bridge and flank around, but I want to guard against these units coming through. So if they try to cross the bridge, the Lancers can hit them with a flanking attack. That is all of the units there. So we've got 1 unit left for the Brutal, and we'll just move them up 3 as well. So now their commander's moved up and they're getting ready to engage over here in this rough terrain in the center. All right, so now we're in the aftermath phase. And the only thing that we have going on here is we have this morale check that needs to happen here. These Rangers have a morale of 5. 5 isn't that good. Again, that means they need a 5 or a 6 to not break, right? So if they pass, their morale's good and they'll stay on the board. If they fail, this morale marker gets flipped to a retreat, and now they have to do a retreat maneuver. So let's roll for them real quick. And they got a 2. They did not pass their morale check. Am I right? Is it over under? Yep, that's right. Yeah, it's greater than or equal to. So this does become a retreat. And what happens is that the unit is going to turn directly away from the closest unit. Generally, that's going to happen with melee attacks. So they'll turn away from whoever's directly against them. In this case, these guys are directly ahead. They caused it, so they are going to turn away. If they had been in a melee combat and there was a melee unit against them, they could attempt to do what's called a massacre maneuver. So the attacking unit tries to follow them to wipe them out before they flee. It's not going to be applicable for us here. They will move 1d3 in the opposite direction. And it doesn't matter for us because they are right there. They're going to move 1. Now, here's the thing. If they retreat off the board, they are effectively wiped out. All right, so they flee the battlefield. But if you get adjacent to the edge of the board like we are here, then you will stop. So you're not going to retreat off on the first time you hit the edge of the board, but after you are against the edge of the board, if you don't rally, boom, you are going to flee off the board. So here's what we'll do. I want to do one more turn, see if we can get a little melee combat going on, maybe a charge or 2, see how that goes, just show a little bit more of the game, and then we'll do some final thoughts. All right, so I've got it set up for turn 2 here. I adjusted the lighting. Hopefully it's not too glary. Sorry, like I said, this is a magazine type glossy page. Not a problem for people at home. Big problem if you're trying to record the game. So let's go ahead and roll to see who's going to have initiative for our next turn. I'm not worried about any discarding cards. Now, there is some modifiers you can have that could adjust for the initiative where you get certain bonuses. Not worried about that. Just understand there are a few things you can do to try to get yourself a bonus if you do want to try to snake that initiative away from your opponent. All right, so let's go ahead and roll for the guys, see who gets what. And they tied. Of course they did. Let's roll this one more time. And what do you know? Our brutal faction down here at the bottom, they did get the initiative. So set these over to the side. That means they are going to go first on this round. Now, they do have some options. They got some warriors here in the center. They're trying to hold it with their commander. Got a chariot far over here to the left. Some guardians, so that's heavier infantry over here on the left as well. And then they have some knights back here. Our Undying faction has pretty much a nice solid clump here in the center where they're holding it with a couple archers, some ghosts, and some warriors. Lancers guarding this flank, and then some warriors who snaked around. But I think I might be able to get these knights to snake around over there, because I was thinking I might come in this way, but then that gives the archers a chance to pivot and fire and light these knights up. But if I take these knights around the back, go sideways into these warriors, I could clear them out and then suddenly come around in on the back and just tear their lines apart. So we'll do a free pivot move to start, because they do get that if they want it. And then 1, 2, because the second one isn't free. That's a maneuver. It does cost to change your facing. 3, 4, 5. They are able to get there. Perfect. They do have 5. Am I right? On their movement, let me check. Brutal. They should. Their cavalry. Yes, they do have that. Now they have a strength of 5. And using the blades. But here's the thing. They're attacking in the flank of these warriors. And I like this because they have facing bonuses and disadvantages for your units. So by hitting these guys in the flank, the warriors only get to fight back with half their strength. Normally, melee and ranged attacks, if they can attack each other, you're having your full strength but that's if you're facing each other. Flanking like this, they do not get their full amount, so they only get half. The warriors get to roll 5, and the knights have 5. But here's the thing, here's the rub. The knights are charging in, they're moving in, so they're moving and attacking. They're doing a charge. And by doing that, they get to double. Cavalry gets that bonus. They get to double the amount of dice that they throw in melee combat on that first initial charge. So by doing this, by not attacking the warriors in the front and by charging, they've effectively flipped the odds. If it was just a straight up face-to-face fight, the warriors would have 10 and the knights would only have 5. As it is, by charging into their flank, the warriors only have 5 and the knights have 10. So it works out really good in their situation. Let's see, these warriors are going to have 5 and their melee skill, I believe, is a 4. And now let's see what the melee skill is for brutal. That's the only problem with this, is I have to keep conferring different pages depending on what faction I'm using. Knights, their melee skill is a 3. Wow, they have an excellent melee skill. That is brutal. Okay, so what that means is the knights need 3 or better to hit, and the warriors need a 4 or better to hit. And the knights are getting twice as many die. So let me grab up my die here. It says 5, 8, that should be 10. Again, love my double 6 dice. God, these things are beautiful. All right, that is, all of those are hits. Oh my God. Yeah, that's a 6. They don't have any 1s or 2s on there. So we'll just pull all these out and set that to the side, knowing that that is going to be, God, they have to do an armor roll for everything, for completely everything. This could be very, very bad for them. They are definitely going to be taking a morale check. All right, here we go. Their return fire. And their return fire wasn't the best. They lost 2. So they got 3 hits, 3 armor saves for the knights, and 10 armor saves. You are going to need a bucket of dice for this game, which most people are going to like when it comes to this game. If you get it, because this is that type, that just chuck a bunch of dice game. All right, let me see. What's the armor value for brutal here for the knights? Their armor value is a 5, and I think the warriors are going to have an armor value of a 5. Yeah, both of them are going to have a 5 for armor. So 5s and 6s are the numbers that we're looking for. Ah, they saved 2 of them. They only take a single hit. Wow, that charge worked out so well for them. So well. Wow. All right, so single ding. Now, they really need high rolls here, because if they do not get them, they're taking a lot of whooping. Ooh. Let's see. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got a lot of 6s. 6. Yeah, the only 6s saved them. All right, so they take 6 hits. That is more than half their strength, so they are going to be taking a morale check later on. So we will put a morale token next to them to signify that they have taken a big hit. So that charge was perfect. That worked out exactly as I hoped it would, causing massive amount of damage, cost of 1 cavalry unit to take out 6 of those warriors. Now the remaining cavalry, because if these guys retreat and they retreat directly away, they're going to be fleeing off the battlefield very quickly. But these knights could later turn, come around this back end, and then they're hitting them in the rear. And if they get them in a charge, they still double their attack. And if you attack in the rear, you no longer get the opponent having a return throw. So it's not even half, right? So basically it's front, you get full, sides, you get half, rear, you get none. So you do not want to get attacked in the back. All right, so put a little token there. Oh, I forgot to even look at the cards. We'll look at those here real quick. All right, so let's continue on here. We're going to go ahead and go with the Undying. They're going to fire with their archers, and they are going to fire into Honestly, I was thinking about these warriors, but there's no reason not to target these warriors. Your ranged units have basically that front 45, so you'll draw a line going through these corners to designate what their arc of fire is. But both of these units are within this archer's line of fire, so I think I'll target the one with the commander instead. And since they do not have any range capability, I can get a free hit. Basically, any damage I do is just damage. They don't get to roll back for it. One more die. 10 coming in. I was hoping I might have the ability to have both the archers fire at the same time, but I don't think I have one. I have extra movement I can do. Actually, yeah. You know what? We are going to play something. And I am playing it on this one. It allows an adjacent unit to make a move action. So they are firing and the commander with his ghost is making a maneuver action. That way, if these warriors try to come up, if they attack the archers, the commander's there to hit them in the flank. And if they turn to fight the commander, then these archers are there to hit them in the flank. Yeah, it gives them options, kind of corners the enemy in is what I'm shooting for here. All right, so let's roll our 10 attack die. Because these guys. What do we got? I think that's going to be 4s or better. Well, I'm looking for these archers. Am I right? Yes, 4s are better. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. All right, they did not do too good. About a 50% hit rate, which is what you would expect. So, not too bad. Armor value should be a 5 on our warriors. I think we just checked that, but I'll double check it just to make sure. Yeah, most units have a 4, 5, or 6 when it comes to armor value. I think the weakest are raiders. They're like a faster moving unit. They have like 6s, and commanders and the like have like 4s. So, roll their armor. Oh, 4 hits. Perfect. Sadly though, that is just 1 fewer. I needed all of them to hit to force a morale check. But this reduces that infantry, and it's the infantry that the commander is attached to. Now, he gets to add his types of attacks into it, so he can kind of offset the damage that they've taken, the losses in their numbers. But it is going to put him a little more at risk because now his unit, and he can move on his own though. Commanders, they can move on their own. They can attack on their own. Think of it just kind of like 40K. Your commanding unit can operate independently and get in there and stick and move and jab and all that good stuff. But they do have the option to embed themselves with a unit and give their abilities, their bonuses to that unit. They make that unit just that much better. All right, sir. This will take care. Sadly, that is going to activate this one and this one. And now we're going to activate our brutal faction. So they're done. They're done. That means I've only got guys over here. Let's see. That chariot should have movement of 5. Yeah, none has a movement more than that. Let's see if we can count this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Ah! So close. I'm gonna move him in just because we're not gonna play through the whole game anyway, and I want to get stuck in more than not. Right? Want to get in there and attack. Get that chariot in there. So we'll move him up and bring those guardians in afterwards. So the guardians, these are heavy infantry. Brutal faction, I made a little bit heavier on ground melee type, and the Undying faction, I give a little more range, but they're both roughly equal. You know what? We're going to fire now with the archers on this side, on the Undying, the ones that are wounded. And I would like to they're getting 6 dice, so I could either continue to target this one or I could weaken this one. And I'm trying to decide what would be better. And I think it'd almost be better to weaken both units rather than try to finish off one. And that's my hope. That way they're chucking less dice. So here we go. We got 6 dice coming from these archers targeting the whole warriors. Oh, what a bad throw. They only got 2 hits. They got 3 ones. What a horrible throw. Oh, this is pathetic. But they missed both of theirs. So their armor saves didn't work, sadly. But that's a 2 out of 6. It's 1/3. That's pathetic. Oh. All right, what do we got left? Let's go ahead and move these guardians up. So that's heavy. He doesn't get a free. That counts for him. And guardians have a movement factor of 3. They're slow. Oh, yeah. So if we go 1, 2, 3, he finishes there. Damn, those guardians are very slow. My goal is to kind of push them up and fall around for the intended flank. I kind of wanted the warriors here to hold them in the center and then flank around with other units. It worked well over here, but I haven't been able to do much over here. All right, so that finishes them. Both of these archers have gone. The commander's gone. I got 1 unit of warriors left up here, and I need to find a way to get him ahead of these infantry. But before that, we're going to charge in with our lancers. So these guys are basically going to make a charge attack against the chariot, and lancers do very good. They are heavy cavalry. So since they are doing a charge, they get 10, but they are not doing it in the flank. So the chariot is going to get its return attack, which should be 5 dice. Let's see. Yeah, his strength is 5. His melee skills 4. And those lancers 4 and 5. So yeah. But they're getting to double it since they are charging in. So that works nicely for them. They're looking for 4s on this attack. And oh, I just noticed this. Yeah, the chariots have ranged abilities. Oh, yeah, the chariots have range. They're good at range, and they're good at range and at melee attacks. They have decent skills at both. I did miss it though. The chariots, I moved 1 step too far. They only have movement of 4, not 5. But that's fine. That's 1 movement point. We're not going to sweat it. We're just showing off the game. So lancers performing their attack. Let me just make sure. Yeah. All right. What did they get? Oh, bad roll. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. They got about half. That sucks. I was wanting more. All right, so the armor saves for the chariot right there. The chariot's return attack against the lancers. Also 4s. And none. They whiffed it. Whiffed it completely. Damn, that sucks. That chariot just did not do well. All right, they need 5s or better for the armor save. Yep, 5s or better. And they got 1. No. Oh, brutal hit that they took here. 4 damage going through on a 5. All they got left is the driver, man. Even the horses are dead. He's dragging the chariot now. And he is definitely going to be taking a morale check after this one. So we'll move him there. And let's see. That finishes off them. All I got left is the warriors. They got movement 3. These guys got movement 3. All right. So we're going to finish off kind of light. Both of these guys are going to move forward. They can't move any farther than that because these cost 2 to move into, so they're not going to be able to move. So I already know that they're going to go there. And he's going to go 1, 2, and 3 and stop his maneuvering there for now. Actually, I'm going to leave him turned to the side for now, just in case I want to either come around on these guys or turn back, but I need to figure out what I'm going to do with him. So that's where we are at the end of turn 2. At the end of turn 2, The guys have taken a lot of damage. We've had one warrior unit up here for the Undying, almost wiped off the board for just the loss of a single knight, but the Undying turn it back with their lancers coming through the heavy cavalry, smashing the chariot almost into oblivion. And he is now going to have to take a morale check as well, just like he is. And these guys are still retreating. We need to do a morale check on them, I believe, to see if they recover or if they are going to break. Actually, I need to roll for something first. I thought that this retreat is handled in the aftermath phase. It is not. It's actually handled in the command phase. Doesn't matter. We'll do it now anyway, but we are still checking his morale. If he fails his morale, then he's going to retreat off the board. He's going to be destroyed. So if they are already in retreat, then they will do their rally check, right? Their morale check during the command phase. If they've got a morale token like these guys do, that turn that they get it, then it's the aftermath phase, the cleanup phase, where you will determine whether or not that morale token gets flipped over to retreat or it gets removed if they pass their morale check. All right, so let's roll for our guys down here, see what they get. And they fail, which means they are going to retreat. And we have our first full casualties of the match. They have retreated. They fled the battlefield. So they are no longer part of this. And those need to get moved up there. Now we'll check for these guys. The chariots morale is 4. Warriors should be 4 as well. So we're looking for 4 or better on both of those units. He fails, so he will be retreating, and that is not good for them. And I want that guy to pass because they never retreat. The Undying don't retreat. They just take losses and flip over. And he passed. All right, so his morale check goes away, but it's a special ability for the Undying faction. The Undying faction is, zombies and skeletons and whatnot. So essentially, they are never going to retreat. They're never going to tuck tail and run. They will always come back, but they end up taking like a D3 of damage if they end up having to retreat. Special unit rolls. Now we do need to handle the retreat here. All right, so here's where we actually get to show something interesting that they have here. So they have the retreat thing, and we're going to go ahead and retreat these cavalry guys. But there's something called a massacre move. And a massacre move means that a unit will be chasing down those units that are retreating, okay? They have to be engaged, which the Lancers are. So these Lancers are choosing to chase the chariot that is now in retreat away. When it comes to cavalry, cavalry get D3 plus 1. So as long as the Lancers roll enough to get to this square that the chariot retreats to, then they are able to destroy the chariot outright. And it's only got 1 hit point left, but you want to try to chase them down. So let's roll for it. Both of them are going to get D3 plus 1 since they are cavalry type units. So that's going to be 3 plus 1, so it's 4. It's going to go 1, 2, 3, and 4. And I don't think we're going to be able to get far enough away. And I took him this way because if I tried to move him through the forest, he's not going to have enough movement points to really get there. And this gets him the farthest away. There was a hill here that was going to slow him down. And then friendly units there in the way. Let's do these guys. Let's see, 1, 2, 3. Yeah, he can get there. I can only get there if I roll a 5 or a 6. If I get a 5 or a 6, then I am able to destroy the chariots. No, I'm short by 1. No. Okay, I actually just double checked the retreat rolls, and it actually operates a little bit differently. The unit will retreat in a straight line, and they will stop if they hit a impassable type terrain. So basically, if a square is occupied or it's blocked off for whatever reason, they stop. They don't turn and keep moving. But the massacre move people don't have that same restriction. they can chase. Basically, what that means is the chariot would move to here and stop, and the lancers do get enough movement to come up and take out that chariot. So the chariot has also been wiped out, and now the lancers are flanking the guardians, and if they get to activate first on the next round, they are in a perfect position to cause some serious damage to these guardian units. Wow, that was an exciting round. It really worked out well for the Undying faction. They were able to wipe out 2 whole units, one of which was a cavalry unit, for the cost of a little bit of damage, about half of a warrior unit. So it really swung in favor of the Undying faction. Not to mention they have taken out, was a 6 of the 20 warriors right here in the center of the board, holding that. So now they're in a position to consolidate, use their range to really pour some hurt down onto the brutal faction. Anyway, this is where we're going to stop our example playthrough. Just a couple turns of the game to let you guys see how it does play. And I gotta say, the amount of game that is in this package is just phenomenal. You really do get that grand feel, right? That feeling like you're playing on a big tabletop with a whole bunch of terrain on it, your trees, your hills, your rivers, your bridges, fortresses, all that. You get that feeling in a very small package. And the way these rules are written, where effectively you're basically rolling a die for each unit that's still in there, right? That's still part of the formation. So a group of 10 warriors rolls 10 dice, and as they take casualties, they're going to roll less dice, just like you would see in so many games of the Elk, where you start plucking your little models off. And I gotta say, that is just excellent. They really do have that grand feel, that huge tabletop feel into a nice, small, condensed down package. Now, of course, these rules are a lot more streamlined than something like 40K. All right, 40K's got a rule book that last I saw was like 360 pages, right? I know half of that is fluff, but there's still just so many nuances. You can never keep track of all the modifiers and this bonus and that bonus, and he's the Blood Angel this, and he's a Necron that, and he gets to come back and this saving roll it, right? That game gets unwieldy. This one doesn't necessarily have that problem. There are special rules, but generally speaking, they're relatively easy to keep in mind. You might miss one or two, a modify here, a modify there, but it's not that big of a deal. It's easy to keep track of. It's easy to understand how the gameplay is going to work. And the game is actually relatively quick playing for everything that you got going on. It is just a fun skirmish dice chucker. Something like this would just be excellent for a couple of gamers who wanted something quick to play. You know, they're into those bigger tactical games, but they don't have time, or on the road, or they're going to a convention or whatever, and you want to just throw this onto the little tabletop there at the hotel and play the game. You can get it done in just a couple hours and just have a blast while playing it. And honestly, I think it solos pretty well too. I mean, I solo all my games anyway, but I have fun playing this back and forth and just seeing how things work out. And it's an easy enough dice chucker that I can roll the dice, see what happens, and just have my fun with it, you know? And I haven't even shown you guys everything. There are still the special units like the giant spiders, the giants, eagles. There's another, was alligator or monster or something like that. There's big monster units that you can have in the game as well. And then on top of that, you have mages. And mages add in a whole other aspect to the game that I haven't even barely touched on, and that's magic, right? So you have magic spells that can come into the game as well and cause a huge swing. So you'll have that small unit, this little mage in the back of the field, chucking out spells and causing chaos and doing Lord knows what, and just having a blast doing it. So it really does cover all those aspects, all right? It really does kind of like bring Sigmar in that feel, right? Where you have swords, shields, bows, monsters, magic spells, all that right down here onto a small little page. And like I said, you can play it with whatever. You don't have to use their components, which their components are outstanding. The I mean, look at this whole deck of cards for the spells, little pieces here that work for the damage tokens. They're all perfectly fine. Now, these tokens are a little thin. They're the same thickness of the cards because you punched them out from that. But they kind of have to be because they didn't have enough room and they're keeping the cost down so you couldn't have another counter sheet. But the counters are fantastic. They are just as good. Pre-rounded counters that are nice and double-sided, so it's effectively giving you 4 represented armies on the board, plus all the commanders, mages, and special units that I was mentioning. In one sheet of counters. That's almost unheard of. They really did find the way to put the most amount of game into the smallest amount of package. The only thing that I can hate on them for is the map. The map sucks. And I'm sorry, it does. It's so glossy that it's just hard to use. But on the bright side, it is double-sided. So you do at least have 2 fields to choose from. I would have liked to have seen them include just 1 extra sheet that had fortresses or bridges or fires or something, right? You know, that ability to change the landscape up a little bit, because these maps are static and you can't move the forest, you can't move the bridges or the hills. They're always there. So if you had the ability to add some stuff to the board with 1 sheet, the same thickness of these cards being included that had terrain features, that would have just nailed it. It would have been perfect. As you know, take the gloss off the damn map. But for what you're paying for is $20. $20. Now I gotta mention this. Shipping, evidently, some people were mentioning shipping is hit or miss. Shipping can be a lot depending on your location. That might hurt you. Maybe you can find it locally sourced instead of ordering directly from them to help mitigate those costs. Check eBay, check stuff like that. See if you can find a way. I know shipping sucks, and sometimes that does make games cost prohibitive, because who wants to pay $40 to ship something that costs $20? Right now, that it doesn't cost $40 to get to the US, but obviously, but some other places, yes, it does suck. And that is a drawback for some of you. That's just how it is. That's not the game related. That's just shipping sucks. But yeah, when it comes down to it, I just love it. I think it's fantastic. They are just a hair's breadth away from nailing it perfect. And I would like to see them put out another game. Mythic Commander 2, same type package, same amount of stuff, just some new factions, some terrain features, you know, stuff like that. Just to expand it out, because they've done such a good job here. If they did a second one and tweaked it and just hit those couple little problems that the original game has, they would have something that's really sweet on their hands. All right, but that's going to be it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this playthrough and seeing Mythic Commander. You guys stay tuned. I do have some more awesome stuff lined up for you, some digital games and some tabletop games that I have in the works. All right, y'all take care. I'll catch you in the next one.